Hey, so I wanted to do a quick rundown review of a cheap entry-level marketplace Facebook marketplace bought kayak that I have been using for the last month, and the modifications that I have done to it to make it feel less cheap. This is a Future Beach Angler 160. Let's move the wheels out of the way. I bought it off Marketplace for 450 bucks. You can actually get them cheaper than that, but I think you'd have to get them shipped. But you can get them for like anywhere from 3 to 5, depending on how far you want to drive or who's selling it for what. I'm pretty sure the Future Beach line was discontinued. I'm not entirely sure. I think Equinox kayaks are pretty much identical in their shape, especially in the bottom molding and the body molding. Don't quote me on that, but some Equinox fishing kayaks that I've seen kind of look exactly the same. I don't think they have this color. By the way, this color is me being like, ooh, I have spray paint. It doesn't come in this tactical color scheme. So that was just me. So I've gone fishing on this a few times. I've taken it on some light current, but mostly on lakes and ponds. I come from a canoe background, so it feels stable to me as compared to a canoe. And most canoes I've been in, have their fair amount of tippiness, but I used to be comfortable with standing canoes and all that. So it was fairly comfortable for me, pretty easy transition. This is not a kayak you can really stand in because of this. There's really nowhere to put your feet. I have like feet that are on the small side of big, and 11.5 boots, and I can't fit. I can't really stand comfortably in this, and there's really no way to quickly adjust yourself if you have to, unless you stand up on this stuff, and then you're placing yourself high above the waterline, and so it's not a good kayak for standing if that's what you're looking for. The stock version, you sit in there, but as you can see, I have modified it with a seat, which I'll get to in a minute. The first thing I did is the standard stuff. There's a rod holder, one of the Scotty rod holders, the actual rod holder I keep in the dry well when I'm not using it. It's slightly gets in the way a little bit, but once I'm actually fishing, it doesn't really bother me. So when I'm actually paddling out to a place, I kind of have to adjust it so I'm not hitting my knees. But other than that, it's pretty good. I did the standard milk crate thing. Again, I kind of painted a white milk crate that I had lying around to match the color scheme. One thing about these is that they kind of have this molded notch in here, and I guess they want you to maybe put the milk crate back here or whatever. I didn't like that. I wanted it to be closer, so I notched mine out, as you can see. Now I'll just set this here to show you. See how it fits right in there, pretty snug. I got the typical flannel box, and this is a repurposed rigid bag from a toolkit, and something I got off these came with a backpack I bought over the winter. It had all these like cool guy pouches, which were kind of silly, and I threw in the closet, but then I realized, hey, wait, I can use them. So I use them for my more kind of tactical stuff, but it works. I'm happy with it. So that's the first thing. Everyone does this. Gotta have the milk crate. The second modification I did, which was I got an idea from a buddy of mine, I'll put a link in the description, is the wheels. A lot of the places I put in, you gotta walk a bit. And I don't like making trips. I'm that guy that carries, 5 bags in at once, and even though I could have made 2 trips. So the wheel system works great. Use it on fairly rough terrain. It folds down, goes under the carriage. There's a steel axle threaded rod, goes all the way through. The actual boat sits on that when it folds up. It's a great little system. I'll put a link to where I got that idea from. Highly recommend it if you have a kayak that you don't mind drilling holes into. And that was part of like one of the reasons I bought this kayak. You know, when I first got the idea, I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy a kayak. I started looking them up, and like the first things that popped up were like Jacksons and Hobies. I'm like, oh, these look cool. Oh, those are expensive. Very expensive. I didn't want to spend upwards of $2,000 on a thing I haven't tried before, so I wanted to spend $400. That's about what I did. And and now I've made all these modifications, and I know what I want when I actually have the money to spend on a nicer kayak. The other modification that I made was the seat. Now, I went on a trip one day with a buddy, and we spent 7 hours out on the water. It was a great day, but you know, I was definitely in seat envy from the other two guys on the water. They were sitting up above, they could see above the pads, get better looks on things, and I was, you know, feeling a little low in the water all day. Although I was comfortable. This is a very comfortable kayak stock, you know, without doing any kind of seat mod. But what I did was I just bought one of these Ozark Trail bench seats. These are designed to like go on a like a stadium seat. So if you're at a football game, you want to lean back. These things lock in. And these little things will lock into the seat. So I can bungee that there. And I cut a piece of aluminum angle iron, not angle iron, angle aluminum. And I used some of the metal screws, threaded holes that were in kayak already. That, you know, all these have metal threaded holes. And I used the screws that came with the kayak, and I screwed this bar in, drilled it and screwed it. And I happen to have, I'm a fence installer, so I always have these extremely heavy duty zip ties on hand for doing deer fence. I mean, they're designed to be outdoors for 10 years, UV, blah, blah, UV protectant, blah, blah, blah. So I use a whole mess of those on there. And this thing, I took it out, test paddled it rather, and did sacrifice some stability, but again, to me, felt more like a canoe than it did before. And after about, you know, 20 minutes or so, I was just kind of back to business as usual. I didn't even really notice the stability. That's me. I wouldn't recommend necessarily if you were a novice kayaker or novice person to just watercraft in general, and doing a mod like this on a canoe, like on a kayak like this, and going on anywhere where there's current or wake or anything like that. It's, you know, even if you're experienced, this is not necessarily designed for that. So I use this on ponds and lakes and things with very, very light current. You know, I'm not taking this into anything that is where there's any wake really. I probably won't take this on the Hudson. And if I do decide to do that, I can easily take this off and put in the stock seat and feel more stable. But you know, when I hit the local fishing hole on a lake, this is fine. It sits higher up in the water. $15 seat, $4 piece of aluminum, and some basic tools. The other mod I did, and this is for when you do an anchor. I just did this today. I just ordered the rest of the anchor line and reel and anchor bobber, but this is an anchor trolley. For those of you who don't know what an anchor trolley is, it is so if you when you hook up your anchor, you either want it at the bow or the stern. You don't want your anchor coming off the side. So that way I can anchor myself off, it'll come off the end of the boat, and I can fish going forward and vice versa. Again, very simple. I found these things at Lowe's. They're probably way overkill, but they work like a charm. 550 cord, stainless steel or zinc plated ring, and a snap hook. Little snap hook just to keep this line from coming in, and got myself an anchor trolley. So some very basic mods to this. If you do, probably the one, if you only did one thing and you bought a kayak like this, it's the wheels. The wheels are just awesome. You know, especially when you're loading in a place where you gotta 200 feet to the water, you gotta do on a trail, and it's dark out, and you just want to like huck everything into your boat and walk to the water. You don't want to make multiple trips. I mean, still a little bit of weight to have to put, not much. I can get it with one hand. You know, when it's fully loaded, this is over 100 pounds, but I can still get it with one hand, walk it to the water, and be ready to go with only one trip. So the wheels are freaking awesome. Other than that, this is I bought it, it had this pine tar on it, you know, so. But other than that, it's a great boat if you can find one for an entry-level thing. Future Beach Angler 160. You know, it's got a hatch, keep more gear. It's got the couple of hatches here, keep more gear. Got 2 rod holders, one there and one on the other side, 4 scupper holes. It does take on a lot of water. I was in one particular body of water that had a ton of duckweed in it, and I was just, my ankles and everything was covered in duckweed. So if you're not choppy water, you're not worried about water coming up over the hull, and you just want to keep your feet dry, you know, go to Dick's Sports and get these scupper plugs. And you know, if it becomes a problem, you take on water, you just pull them out. Water drains. Got a plug here to drain, and other than that, it's pretty, you know, some pretty basic stuff. But yeah, good entry level, cheap kayak with some easily modified platform. So hope this helps somebody out in their kayak purchasing, and good luck on the water.